Hello. Hopefully the sound will behave itself today. It's really been a bit of a nuisance of late, and I do apologise for that because I know trying to watch the video doesn't make it easy. So if you have headphones, I do recommend you put them in. Um, Probably be the best way to listen to my videos at the moment. Yeah. So I've just seen a news conference between Justin Trudeau of Canada and Leo Varadkar, who is the new Taoiseach Prime Minister of Ireland. It was a brief news conference, I assume about trade or Irish Canadian relations or whatever you would expect. Um, Before I talk about that, a quick word just to say Happy Canada Confederation Day or Happy Canada Confederation Week. 150 years old. Um, our cousins in Canada are celebrating this event, and yeah, any Canadian viewers would like to send out my best wishes. Canada is a great nation. I've only been there once myself when I was young, but I'd like to go again to some of the great cities: Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. I was briefly in Niagara Falls when I was 13, but yeah, great country. Happy Canada Confederation Week. So, yeah, this joint press conference, I guess it was just a segment that they were showing, but the reporter asked Justin Trudeau, had he spoken to Leo Varadkar about feminism? It's well known that Justin Trudeau is pretty open about the fact he sees himself as a feminist. And he had appointed a 50-50 cabinet in Ottawa. And the reporter was basically asking, had he sort of basically put pressure on Leo Varadkar to do the same because he hadn't appointed a 50-50 male female cabinet in Ireland in the Dáil. Um, the two men are from slightly different political backgrounds. Leo Varadkar is from a more conservative wing of things in Irish politics. Fine Gael is more conservative, and obviously Justin Trudeau's a liberal. They seem to get on okay. There seem to be good rapport there. But yeah, I thought the question just was symbolic of the ridiculous sort of politics that's behind this. Um, the whole emphasis of the question, the whole emphasis of this notion is that unless you call yourself a feminist, then you don't believe in equality. Now, what Trudeau answered was, "Oh yes, I spoke to Leo about the struggles that I had to try and encourage women to get into politics." He said that if you ask women to be in politics, their concern is, "Am I qualified?" If you ask men, their question is, "What took you so long?" That's from his perspective. Well, Mr. Trudeau is a world leader. I'm not, so I guess we'll have to take his word for it. But I still really don't like the underlying argument, which is in order to show that you have equality, it has to be 50-50. I think that's absurd. Now, what Leo Varadkar replied was that um, he felt it would be getting himself into a trap to call himself a feminist, and that's for something for other people to decide. And he said, if feminism is a belief in women's equality, then yes, he would consider himself a feminist, but he would be more reluctant to call himself that. Um, this is the thing that irritates me about this. If Leo Varadkar had turned around and said, "No, I don't call myself a feminist," then the media would have absolutely been knifing him and saying, "Oh, regressive Leo Varadkar doesn't believe in women's equality." And yet it wouldn't mean anything of the sort. It would simply mean that he didn't want to label himself that way. So the question was clearly designed to try and stitch Leo Varadkar up, and he answered, in my opinion, quite smartly. I don't believe that leaders should have to call themselves feminists, and I don't believe that to show equality it has to be exactly 50-50. For me, the most important thing is equal opportunity. Now, as it stands, I don't know about Ireland, but certainly in the UK, there's absolutely no legal barriers to women standing in politics. I'd be very surprised if there were in Ireland. Yes, Ireland's arguably a more conservative society, but it's greatly, greatly improved from the past. And this is the point. There is no legal barriers stopping women from standing for office. So if there does happen to be fewer women interested, so be it. You can't force women into politics if they don't want to be. So if you have a cabinet that's, say, 35% women, 65% men, does that mean it's some sort of patriarchal cabinet? No. It just means that perhaps there have been more men interested in forming cabinet positions. It's not a case of stopping women from standing. I remember about a few years back, there was a feminist lobby group who were trying their very best to get the three major party leaders in Britain at that time, who were free men, David Cameron, Ed Miliband, and Nick Clegg, to wear I am a feminist t-shirt. Ed Miliband and Nick Clegg took it up, and I'm pleased to say, to his credit, David Cameron did not. The reason I say to his credit is because I feel it is a ridiculous publicity stunt. I feel it doesn't prove a damn thing in terms of actual equality. Now, I would also say Mr. Trudeau is somewhat hypocritical. This is a man who has done the worst sort of virtue signalling. Um, when he was asked about honor killings, he said that is something we shouldn't, it's a cultural difference. So this is a man who's being politically correct and virtue signaling in areas where actually he should really be speaking out on women's rights. This is a man who's defended the wearing of the hijab, but where is his voice for those women who choose not to wear the hijab? That's what I find a little bit irritating about Mr. Trudeau. He really does virtue signal, and he really does um, get into the sort of politics which I find rather patronizing and condescending, that unless you copy this, then you don't believe in equality. Um, how Mr. Trudeau approaches his politics is up to him, but for those who hold Mr. Trudeau up to be a great liberal figure and a great defender of human rights, I would question that on the grounds that within the Canadian context, yes, he's very outspoken, but when it comes to taboo issues, he's actually very quiet. So I'm not overly impressed by the sort of preaching that Mr. Trudeau comes out with. Um, I think ultimately, when it comes to egalitarianism in the political context, the most important question is, are women being given the same opportunity? If there are situations where women don't have the same opportunity, that needs to be addressed. But from what I can see, in most Western liberal democracies, there is nothing legally preventing women from standing for office. So for feminists to say that there's an overbearing patriarchy is just a lie. It simply is not true. Um, I mean, look at the situation in the UK at the moment. Most political parties are run by women right now, with one or two exceptions. Um, in fact, the only party I can think of that is run by a man is Labour, Jeremy Corbyn. UKIP is in a transition process. They don't have a leader, as far as I know. The Lib Dems are going to be in the leadership process. Um, the Conservatives, Theresa May, the Scottish National Party, Nicola Sturgeon, the DUP, Arlene Foster, Plaid Cymru, Leanne Wood. Um, so I just don't accept the feminist argument that we live in a patriarchy, because it is part of their narrative to stay relative. It's relevant, excuse me. It's part of their narrative to try and give the impression to women, oh, you're kept down by by the wicked patriarchy. Therefore, it's like constantly stirring up a grievance by giving women the idea that men have all the power, which simply is not true in our context. If they were saying that in a country like Afghanistan, they would be absolutely right. But it simply is not the case. So I just think it's a false and divisive narrative, and that's why I have a problem with it. If I was a prime minister or a president and I was appointing a cabinet, I would want the best men and the best women for cabinet roles. Um, Certainly, I can understand. I'm not totally detached from image politics here. If you had a cabinet was like 90% men, I could understand why that would be controversial, but I just don't agree with an exact 50-50 quota. I think it's ridiculous. To be quite honest, if there was more women I saw in the political field who were qualified, and it turned out to be a 55% women cabinet, then I would be saying the same thing. It shouldn't, then men shouldn't feel threatened by that. ultimately it should be about meritocracy and meritocracy only. And I will say this about the Conservative Party. I don't agree with a wide range of things the Tories do. One area I do agree with them is that they do put more emphasis on meritocracy, more so than liberals and socialists. And that's something I agree with. I think that is important. Um, because to me, that's true egalitarianism in terms of opportunity. So that's how I feel about it. To any feminists watching this, my challenge to you is if your argument is really about equality, then surely you would agree that it should be the people who are best fitted for the job. And that may well be women. So if Justin Trudeau has chosen his cabinet, this is the thing, I don't take issue with him because it's 50-50. I take issue because of the rationale for it being male female. If Mr. Trudeau's argument was, well, these are very capable women, and I'm sure they are, who are doing the job, that's why I've chosen them, then I'd say fine. But it's the premise, I've chosen them because it's 2015. He's basically saying I'm more progressive than most other world leaders because they don't have exactly 50-50. It's nonsense. So that's how I feel about it. Like I say, if I was a prime minister choosing a cabinet, I would be looking for the best men and women for the job. I would absolutely be gender blind. And that's what a good leader should be. They should be colorblind, they should be gender blind. They should be looking at the best people for the job. That to me is true egalitarianism. So let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.